I was known as the most handsome merman in my sea. With my first mating season drawing near, my family pressed me to choose a partner, but I refused to accept a loveless, arranged bond. Defiant, I left home, determined to seek out true love on my own. And then I truly found him, Magnus. He was breathtaking, with a perfect body and a tail of gleaming silver. Against his cool indifference, I pursued him relentlessly until, at last, he became mine. The day I brought Magnus home to meet my family, my mother took one look at him and yanked me aside. She smacked me on the head in shock. "Foolish child," she hissed. "Don't you see what he is? That is no ordinary merman. He is a shark born, one of the deep sea's fiercest predators." The truth stunned me. Magnus was not of my kind, but a rare and feared being. The palace throne room gleamed with bioluminescent coral, casting dancing shadows across the faces of the assembled nobles. My father, King Thalasser, sat upon his throne of pearl and bone, his expression as hard as the ancient stone beneath the waves. "Elias," he said, and my name fell from his lips like a command. "Prince Dorian of the Northern Currents has formally requested your hand. The alliance would strengthen our borders against the deep-trench creatures." I felt my blue tail fin twitch with barely suppressed anger. Prince Dorian. I'd met him twice, a pompous merman with dull gray scales who spent every conversation discussing territorial treaties and fishing rights. The thought of binding myself to him for eternity made my stomach turn. "Father, the ceremony will take place at the next full moon," he continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "When your heat cycle begins, it has already been decided." My mother placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, her expression sympathetic but resigned. She'd been through the same thing generations ago, married off to secure an alliance. She'd grown to love my father, she claimed, but I saw the shadow in her eyes sometimes, the wondering of what might have been. "I won't do it," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The throne room fell silent. Even the small fish that darted between the coral columns seemed to freeze mid-swim. "What did you say?" My father's voice was dangerously quiet. I lifted my chin, my golden hair floating around my face like a crown. "I said I won't do it. I won't marry someone I don't love just to secure your borders. I'm not a bargaining chip. You are a prince." My father roared, his tail thrashing and sending ripples through the water. "You have responsibilities, duties? Then find another prince to marry off." I shot back. "I'm leaving." I didn't wait for his response. I turned and swam as fast as my tail could carry me, ignoring my mother's desperate calls, ignoring the guards who started to follow before my father's bellowed command stopped them. I swam through the coral gardens where I'd played as a child, past the kelp forests where I'd first learned to hunt, beyond the boundary markers that separated our territory from the wild ocean. I swam until my muscles burned and my lungs ached, until the bioluminescent lights of the palace were nothing but a distant glow behind me. I swam until I was free. 3 days of aimless wandering brought me to a region I'd never seen before. The water here was darker, colder, the pressure heavier. Strange rock formations jutted up from the ocean floor, like the ribs of some ancient beast. This was the edge of the deep trench territory, the place my father's guards patrolled, the place where creatures far more dangerous than merfolk made their homes. I should have been afraid. Instead, I felt alive. I was exploring a narrow canyon, marveling at the strange purple anemones that clung to the rocks, when I heard it, a low, pained sound that was almost a growl. Every instinct screamed at me to swim away, but curiosity had always been my greatest weakness. I followed the sound around a corner and froze. A merman, no, not quite a merman, lay wedged between 2 rocks. His tail was unlike anything I'd ever seen, sleek silver scales that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light, more muscular and streamlined than any merfolk tail. But what caught my attention was the blood. Dark clouds of it billowed from a deep gash along his side, and a cruel harpoon was embedded in his shoulder. Hunters. They'd been growing bolder lately, venturing deeper into our waters with their ships and weapons. The stranger's eyes snapped open as I approached, and I gasped. They were gold, pure, molten gold, and they fixed on me with an intensity that made my heart race. His face was beautiful in a sharp, dangerous way, high cheekbones, a strong jaw silver, white hair that floated around his face like moonlight. "Stay back," he growled, his voice rough with pain. I won't hurt you if you leave now." But I could see he was dying, the blood loss, the depth of the wounds. He didn't have much time. "I'm going to help you," I said, swimming closer, despite his warning. "Foolish," he muttered, but he didn't resist as I began examining the harpoon. "Foolish little merling, don't you know what I am?" "I know you're hurt," I said, gripping the harpoon shaft. "This is going to hurt. On 3, 1. I yanked it out on 1, not giving him time to brace. He let out a strangled roar that sent vibrations through the water, and his hand shot out, gripping my wrist hard enough to bruise. For a moment, I thought he might snap my bones, but then he released me, breathing hard. "You're insane," he panted. "So I've been told." I tore strips from the silk wrap I wore around my waist, pressing them against his wounds. My hands came away red. "What is your name? Why do you care?" "Because I'm helping you, and I'd like to know who I'm saving." He stared at me for a long moment, those golden eyes searching my face. "Magnus, I'm Elias." I smiled despite the circumstances. "Now, Magnus, can you swim? There is a cave system nearby where you'll be safer." "I can swim," he said. But when he tried to move, his face went pale and he sagged against the rocks. "Right, new plan." I wedged myself under his arm, taking most of his considerable weight. He was heavier than he looked, all muscle and coiled strength. "Lean on me, you're too small," he protested weakly. "I'm stronger than I look. Now move, or I'll leave you here for the sharks." That almost got a smile from him, almost. It took us nearly an hour to reach the cave I'd spotted earlier. By the time I got Magnus settled on a smooth rock shelf above the waterline, both of us were exhausted. I'd found some healing kelp growing nearby and was pressing it against his wounds when he spoke again. "You should go," he said softly, "before your family comes looking for you." "They won't," I said. "I left them. I'm not going back." Those golden eyes studied me with new interest. "Ran away from home, little prince. How did you? Your scales, that particular shade of blue, only comes from the royal bloodline of the Western Shallows." He shifted slightly, wincing. "So what did the pampered prince do to earn exile?" "I'm not exiled. I chose to leave." I wrung out the kelp, watching the medicinal oils seep into his wounds. "They wanted to marry me off to some boring noble for a political alliance. I refused. And they just let you go." "Not exactly." I grinned. "I didn't give them much choice." This time he did smile, just a small curve of his lips, but it transformed his entire face. "Brave, foolish, but brave. You keep calling me foolish, because you are." His hand moved to cover mine where it rested on his side, his touch surprisingly gentle. "Do you have any idea what I could do to you? What my kind does to pretty little merfolk who wander into the deep?" My heart raced, but not with fear. "What are you, Magnus?" "They call us shark-born predators, killers." His golden eyes never left mine. "We're the things your parents warned you about in bedtime stories." I should have been terrified. Instead, I moved closer, fascinated by the way. The dim light caught the silver of his scales. "You don't seem very terrifying right now." "Give me time to heal," he said dryly. "I'll show you terrifying." I laughed, and something warm flickered in his eyes. We stayed like that for a moment, hands touching, the space between us charged with something I couldn't name. "Rest," I finally said, pulling away. "I'll watch over you." "Elias," he said as I turned to go, "why did you help me?" I looked back at him, this beautiful, dangerous stranger who I'd known for barely an hour. "Because everyone deserves to be saved," I said simply. "Even predators." Magnus healed faster than any merman I'd ever known. Within 3 days, the wounds that should have taken weeks to close were already knitting together, leaving only faint silver scars. He claimed it was a trait of the shark-born, accelerated healing, that made them nearly impossible to kill. I'd been bringing him food, hunting small fish, and gathering edible seaweed from the surrounding area. At first, he'd refused to eat, claiming he could hunt for himself, but his pride had given way to practicality when I'd pointed out that he'd just opened his wounds again. "You're spoiling me," he'd grumbled, but he'd eaten the fish I'd prepared. On the fourth day, I found him already awake when I returned to the cave, his golden eyes tracking my movements as I swam in with my morning catch. "You're up early," I said, settling onto the rock beside him. "Couldn't sleep." He took the fish I offered, eating with neat, precise movements. "I'm not used to having company." "Do you live alone?" "Most shark-born do." "We're not social creatures. Our instincts make it difficult to coexist peacefully." He glanced at me. "We're territorial, possessive, violent when challenged." "You haven't been violent with me." "Haven't I?" His smile was sharp, showing teeth just a bit too pointed. "Maybe you just haven't challenged me yet, little prince." The nickname made my stomach flutter. "My name is Elias, I know." His gaze traveled over me slowly, and I was suddenly very aware of how close we were sitting. "But you are a prince. It shows in everything you do, the way you move, the way you speak, even the way you hunt. Too clean, too practiced. You were trained by the best. And you?" I asked, trying to ignore the heat creeping up my neck. "How did you learn to hunt?" His expression darkened. "Necessity, shark. Born don't have palaces or servants or hunting instructors. We learn to kill or we die." "I'm sorry, don't be." He set aside the fish bones, his movements careful. "It made me strong, made me survive." I wanted to ask more about his childhood, his family, how he'd ended up alone in these dangerous waters, but something in his expression stopped me. Instead, I said, "You're healing well. Another few days and you'll be able to leave." "Is that what you want, for me to leave?" The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I suppose I haven't thought that far ahead. You should." He turned to face me fully, his silver tail brushing against my blue one. "I'm dangerous, Elias. My kind. We don't form attachments. We don't fall in love. We take what we want and we move on." "Then why are you warning me?" I challenged. "If you're so dangerous, why not just take what you want?" His eyes flashed, something predatory and hungry rising to the surface. "Because you saved my life, and because—" He reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek, so gently I barely felt it. "Because you're too pure for someone like me to destroy." My breath caught. What if I don't want to be protected? What if I want to be destroyed? "Elias." I left everything. Magnus, my home, my family, my entire future. I left it all because I refused to live a life chosen for me. I grabbed his hand, pressing it more firmly against my cheek. "So don't you dare tell me what I should or shouldn't want." For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then Magnus moved, faster than I could track, pinning me against the rock with his body. His hand cupped the back of my neck, his thumb tracing the curve of my jaw. "You're playing with fire, little prince," he whispered, his lips so close to mine I could feel his breath. "Then let me burn," I whispered back. He kissed me like he was starving for it, all teeth and intensity in desperate need. I kissed him back just as fiercely, tangling my fingers in his silver hair, pressing closer despite the warning voice in my head that said this was madness. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Magnus rested his forehead against mine. "This is a mistake," he said. "Probably," I agreed. "I'll only hurt you, maybe. I should leave right now before this goes any further." I pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "But you won't." "No," he admitted, his expression a mixture of resignation and something that might have been hope. "I won't." The next 2 weeks were the happiest of my life. Magnus and I fell into an easy rhythm. He taught me to hunt like a predator, how to use the currents, how to strike without warning, how to kill cleanly and quickly. I taught him the things I'd learned in the palace, the politics of mer society, the old songs and stories, the art of finding beauty in small things. We explored the deep waters together, discovering hidden caves filled with phosphorescent algae, ancient shipwrecks that had become homes for colonies of exotic fish, underwater gardens where flowers bloomed in impossible colors. But it was the quiet moments I treasured most, the evenings when we'd lie on the rocks at the mouth of our cave, watching the way the fading sunlight filtered down through the water. The mornings when I'd wake to find Magnus already awake, watching me with those golden eyes, his hand resting possessively on my waist. He was becoming mine, and I was becoming his, and it terrified me how right it felt. "Tell me about your family," I said one evening, as we floated in the shallows, the water warm around us. Magnus was quiet for so long, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I never knew them. Shark, born don't raise their young. We're born, we survive, or we don't. That is horrible. That is nature. He pulled me closer, my back against his chest. But sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to have a mother who sang to me, a father who taught me to hunt, siblings to play with. His arms tightened around me, a home to return to. I turned in his embrace, cupping his face in my hands. "You have a home now with me." "Elias, I mean it. Magnus, I don't care what you are or where you came from." I stopped, the words catching in my throat. "Say it," he commanded softly. "I love you," I whispered. "I know it is fast and probably crazy, but I love you." His expression crumbled, showing a vulnerability I'd never seen before. "You shouldn't. I'm not made for love, Elias. My kind doesn't." "I don't care what your kind does or doesn't do," I interrupted. "I care about you, just you." He kissed me then, slow and deep and achingly tender. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "I love you too," he said, the words seeming to hurt him. "Goddess help me, but I do." That night, we made love for the first time. Magnus was gentle despite his strength, his hands reverent as they explored my body, his kisses soft despite the sharpness of his teeth. I gave myself to him completely, holding nothing back, and when we finally joined, it felt like coming home. Afterwards, as we lay tangled together in the darkness, Magnus traced patterns on my skin. "There is something you should know," he said quietly, "about shark-born mating bonds." I propped myself up on one elbow, looking down at him. "What is it? When we mate, it is permanent. We bond on a level deeper than just emotional. We become attuned to each other. I'll be able to feel your emotions, sense when you're in danger, know when you need me." His golden eyes met mine, and it works both ways. You'll feel me too, always. That sounds wonderful. It is also possessive, obsessive even. I want to keep you close, protect you from everything, fight anyone who looks at you wrong. His jaw clenched. I'll be jealous and territorial and probably insufferable. I smiled, leaning down to kiss him. I can handle insufferable. Elias, I'm serious. This isn't like merfolk pair bonding. This is forever. I finished. I know, and I want it. I want you forever. He pulled me down into another kiss, and I felt it then. A click, like something falling into place in my chest. A warmth that spread through my entire body, connecting me to him in ways I couldn't fully understand. The bond, we were bound now, truly and completely. "Mine," Magnus growled against my lips. "Yours," I agreed, "and you're mine, always." But our happiness was short-lived. 3 days later, I woke to find Magnus sitting at the edge of the cave, his entire body tense, his golden eyes fixed on the water outside. "What is it?" I asked, swimming to his side. "Humans," he said grimly. "A hunting ship. They've been circling this area for the past hour." My blood ran cold. Human hunters were the worst kind. They captured merfolk and shark, born alike, selling us to collectors or worse, dissecting us in the name of science. "We need to leave," I said. "It is too late. They've already deployed nets." He turned to me, his expression fierce. "Stay here, no matter what you hear. Don't leave this cave. Magnus, no. Elias." He grabbed my shoulders, his grip just shy of painful. "I can handle them, but I need to know you're safe, please." I wanted to argue, but I could feel his fear through the bond. Not for himself, but for me. Be careful, I whispered. He kissed me once, hard and desperate, then dove into the water. I waited, my heart pounding, feeling echoes of Magnus's emotions through our bond. Determination, rage, and then pain. I couldn't stay hidden, bond or no bond, orders or no orders. I couldn't just wait while Magnus was hurt. I swam out of the cave and into chaos. The human ship loomed above, dark and massive. Nets tangled through the water, and I could see Magnus fighting, his silver tail thrashing as he tried to free himself from the thick ropes. Blood clouded the water around him. They'd harpooned him again. 3 human divers were in the water, trying to sedate him with drugs while he fought like a demon. I didn't think, I just acted. I shot forward, my speed taking the humans by surprise. I slammed into the first diver, knocking the syringe from his hand. The second turned toward me, and I saw his eyes widen behind his mask, probably surprised to see a royal blue tail in these waters. Elias, no, Magnus roared, but I was already moving. I'd never fought before, not really. Palace training had taught me elegant combat forms, more dance than battle, but Magnus had taught me to hunt, to strike, to use my speed and agility as weapons. I tore through the net with my hands, ignoring how the rough rope shredded my palms. I bit one of the divers on the arm when he tried to grab me, my blunt teeth still sharp enough to draw blood through his wetsuit. I used my tail like a weapon, the way Magnus had shown me, slamming it into the third diver's chest, hard enough to send him spiraling away. Finally, Magnus was free. He grabbed me around the waist and dove, swimming deeper and faster than I'd ever moved before. Behind us, I heard the frustrated shouts of the humans, the whir of their equipment. We didn't stop until we were miles away, hidden in a dark crevasse where the water pressure would keep the humans from following. "Are you insane?" Magnus demanded, his hands running over me frantically, checking for injuries. "I told you to stay hidden. You were hurt. I could have handled it." "You were bleeding and caught in a net," I shot back. "What was I supposed to do, just watch?" "Yes." He gripped my shoulders, his entire body shaking. "Because if something happened to you, if they'd caught you, if they'd hurt you," his voice broke. "Elias, I can't lose you. I won't survive it." I could feel it through the bond, the depth of his fear, the way it had nearly driven him mad when he'd sensed me in danger. "I'm sorry," I whispered, cupping his face. "But I can't lose you either. We protect each other, Magnus. That is what being bonded means." He pulled me against his chest, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. "You're going to be the death of me, little prince." "Probably," I agreed, and despite everything, I smiled. "I know a place," Magnus said the next day as we prepared to leave our cave. "On land, the humans can't follow us there." "Land?" I stared at him. "But I don't have legs. I can fix that." He produced a small, iridescent pearl from somewhere in his belongings. "Transformation magic, old shark, born secret. 1 dose lasts about 3 months before you need another." "You've been to land before?" He nodded. "I have. Resources there. A life I built for when the ocean becomes too dangerous." His golden eyes met mine. "Will you come with me?" I didn't hesitate anywhere. The transformation was the strangest sensation I'd ever experienced. The pearl dissolved on my tongue, tasting of salt and starlight, and then my entire body began to change. My tail split and reformed, scales melting into smooth skin, fins becoming toes. When it was over, I had legs, wobbly, unfamiliar legs that I had no idea how to use. Magnus caught me before I could collapse, his own transformation already complete. He looked different on land, still beautiful, still dangerous, but somehow more human. He wore clothes that had appeared from nowhere, dark and well-fitted, hiding the silver-white hair under a black cap. "Easy," he murmured, supporting my weight. "It takes time to adjust." "How do you walk like this?" I gasped, clutching his arm. "Practice," he smiled, and it was softer than usual. "Come on, I've got you." The human world was overwhelming. Everything was so bright, so loud, so strange. The air felt wrong in my lungs, too thin, too dry. The sun was too close, bearing down on my sensitive skin. And the sounds, gods, the sounds. Machines roaring, humans chattering, music blaring from everywhere at once. Magnus led me to a building he called an apartment, high above the city streets. It was sparsely furnished, but clean, with large windows that looked out over the ocean. "This is yours?" I asked, touching the strange furniture with wonder. "Ours," he corrected, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Everything I have is yours now." I leaned back against him, still marveling at how different his body felt with legs instead of a tail. "How long have you had this place?" 5 years. I come here when I need to trade with humans, or when I need to disappear for a while." He pressed a kiss to my neck. "I never thought I'd bring anyone here." "I'm honored," I said softly. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of new experiences. Magnus taught me how to walk properly, how to navigate human society, how to eat their strange food, and wear their uncomfortable clothes. He showed me his world, the one he'd built in secret, separate from his life in the ocean. During the day, he worked at something he called consulting, apparently. Shark. Born had an advantage in the ruthless world of human business. At night, he taught me about human culture, their customs, their endless fascinating complexity. But it wasn't all wonderful. One evening, we were at a restaurant, Magnus's attempt to show me normal human dating, when a woman approached our table. She was beautiful in a sharp, predatory way, with dark hair and eyes that tracked Magnus like prey. "Magnus," she purred, ignoring me completely. "I haven't seen you at the office lately." "I've been busy, Victoria," Magnus said coolly, his hand finding mine under the table. "Too busy for our dinner plans?" She finally looked at me, her eyes narrowing. "Who is this?" "Elias, my partner." The word was firm, possessive. Something ugly flickered across her face. "Partner, since when?" "Since it is none of your business," I said sweetly, surprised by my own boldness. She laughed, but it wasn't kind. "How cute. Does your little friend know what you really are, Magnus, what you're capable of?" I felt Magnus tense beside me, felt the surge of anger through our bond. "We're done here, Victoria. Leave." "Oh, I leave. But you should ask yourself, how long before you destroy this one too?" She leaned down, her voice dropping to a whisper, meant only for Magnus. "We both know you're not capable of love. Not really. You'll break his heart, just like—" Magnus stood so fast, his chair fell over, his golden eyes blazing. For a moment, I saw the predator underneath, barely leashed. "Get out." She backed away, but her parting smile was venomous. "Enjoy it while it lasts, sweetheart," she said to me. "Magnus always gets bored eventually." After she left, Magnus sat back down, his jaw clenched so tight I was worried he'd crack a tooth. "Who was she?" I asked quietly. "Someone I worked with, someone who wanted more than I could give." He looked at me, his expression tortured. "She is not entirely wrong, Elias. I've never, before you, I never stayed with anyone longer than a few weeks. I always left." "But you're not leaving me," I said firmly. "How can you be so sure?" I took his hand, pressing it over my heart. "Because of this, the bond. You feel what I feel, Magnus. You know I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you." He pulled me into a kiss right there in the restaurant, not caring who saw. "I don't deserve you," he murmured against my lips. "Maybe not," I agreed with a smile, "but you're stuck with me anyway." It started as a warmth in my belly, a restlessness I couldn't shake. At first, I thought I was just adjusting to life on land, but then the symptoms got worse. My skin became oversensitive, every touch sending sparks through my body. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, couldn't think about anything except Magnus. "Elias?" Magnus found me in the bedroom, curled up in a nest of blankets, shaking. "What is wrong?" "I don't know," I gasped. "I feel so hot, and I need. His eyes widened. "Oh gods, your heat cycle. I didn't think. On land, I didn't realize it would still." "Make it stop," I begged, reaching for him. "Please, Magnus, it hurts." He was beside me in an instant, pulling me into his arms. "Shash, I've got you. It is okay." But it wasn't okay. The heat was building, burning through me, and the only thing that seemed to help was Magnus's touch. I pressed against him desperately, seeking relief, and felt him tense. "Elias, you don't know what you're asking for. I know exactly what I'm asking for," I panted, pulling at his clothes. "I need you, please." "This isn't you talking. It is the heat, no." I forced myself to focus through the haze, meeting his eyes. "I want this. I want you. Heat or no heat. I choose you." Something in my words broke his resistance. He kissed me fiercely, his control finally snapping, and then we were moving together, all desperate hands and gasping breaths. He was gentle, even in his urgency, making sure I was ready, making sure I wanted this, and I did. I wanted all of him. When he finally entered me, the relief was immediate and overwhelming. The burning ache subsided, replaced by pleasure so intense I could barely breathe. We moved together like we'd been made for this, his body fitting mine perfectly, our bond singing between us. "Mine," Magnus growled, his teeth grazing my throat. "Say it." "Yours," I gasped. "Always yours." We made love for hours, the heat driving us both to the edge of sanity and beyond. Magnus was insatiable, possessive, claiming every inch of me, like he was trying to brand himself onto my soul. And I took everything he gave, begging for more, desperate to get closer. Somewhere in the midst of it, I felt the bond solidify further, becoming something unbreakable. We were one now, truly and completely, in every way that mattered. When the heat finally broke, we lay tangled together, both exhausted and sated. Magnus held me close, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my sweat-dampened skin. "I love you," he murmured, "so much it terrifies me." I smiled, pressing a kiss to his chest. "Good. You should be terrified. I'm never letting you go." Thank the gods for that. 2 months into our life on land, I started having dreams about the ocean, about my family, about the home I'd left behind. "You miss them," Magnus said one morning, having clearly felt my restlessness through the bond. "Is that terrible?" I asked. "After everything, after choosing to leave, I still miss them." "It is not terrible. It is human. Or, well, merfolk." He pulled me into his arms. "Do you want to go back?" "I want them to know I'm okay, that I'm happy, that I found what I was looking for." I looked up at him. "Will you come with me?" He tensed. "Elias, your family won't accept me. Merfolk and Shark-born, we're natural enemies. They'll see me as a threat, and we'll make them see differently." I cupped his face. "I'm not ashamed of you, Magnus. I want them to meet the person I love." He closed his eyes, and I felt the war raging inside him through our bond. Fear of rejection, fear of losing me, fear of not being enough. But finally he nodded. "Okay, we'll go together." The journey back to my home waters was bittersweet. Everything looked the same: the coral gardens, the kelp forests, the gleaming palace in the distance. But I had changed so completely that it all seemed smaller somehow. We were spotted by the border guards before we'd even reached the palace gates. I saw their eyes widen when they recognized me, then narrow with suspicion when they saw Magnus. "Prince Elias," the captain said, his hand on his spear. "You've been missed, but who is this?" "My partner," I said firmly. "Magnus, we've come to see my family." The guards exchanged nervous glances. They could tell what Magnus was. It was written in every line of his body, the silver scales, the gold eyes. But they couldn't deny a prince's request. "This way," the captain said stiffly. The throne room was exactly as I remembered. My father sat on his throne, looking older than I remembered, worry lines etched deep around his eyes. My mother was beside him, and when she saw me, her hand flew to her mouth. "Elias," she whispered. "Mother, father." I swam forward, Magnus a steady presence at my side. "I've come home, not to stay, but to show you that I'm happy, that I made the right choice." My father's eyes moved to Magnus, and his expression hardened. "Is this what you left us for? A shark-born? Do you have any idea how dangerous?" "I know exactly what he is," I interrupted, "and I love him anyway. We're bonded, father, truly bonded. The shock on my parents' faces would have been comical if the situation weren't so tense. Bonded? My mother echoed faintly. But Elias, shark-born R. I'm aware of the stories, I said. But Magnus isn't a story. He is real, and he is mine, and he has been nothing but good to me. He is a predator, my father roared. They kill merfolk. They destroy everything they touch. I would never hurt him, Magnus spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but firm. I would die before I let any harm come to Elias, even from myself. Pretty words, my father sneered. But how long before your true nature surfaces? How long before? The alarm bells cut him off. Guards began shouting, and through the windows I could see the dark shapes of human ships descending into our waters. They found us, one of the guards gasped. Human hunters, dozens of them. Panic erupted in the throne room. The humans had never dared attack the palace directly before. They must have gotten desperate, or braver, or both. Evacuate the civilians, my father commanded. Guards to your positions. You'll need more than guards, Magnus said. He turned to me, his eyes intense. Trust me. I didn't hesitate. Always. He smiled, then turned to my father. I can fight them. Shark-born are made for battle, but I'll need your guards to follow my orders. I'm not putting my people under the command of, Father, please. I grabbed his arm. Let him help. We're bonded. I can feel his intent. He is not lying. He wants to protect our people. A harpoon crashed through one of the windows, and my mother cried out. My father looked at the chaos, at his frightened people, and then at Magnus. Fine, he ground out. But if you betray us, I won't, Magnus said simply. Then he was moving, barking orders at the guards, organizing them into defensive positions with the efficiency of someone who'd fought battles before. I followed him, refusing to stay safe while he risked his life. Together, we fought like demons, me using my speed and agility, Magnus using his raw power and predatory instincts. He was magnificent to watch, a silver blur of controlled violence, protecting my people like they were his own. The battle raged for hours. Magnus took a harpoon to the shoulder, protecting a group of younglings. I nearly got caught in a net before he tore it apart with his bare hands. We fought back to back, our bond humming between us, each knowing instinctively where the other was, what the other needed. And slowly, impossibly, we won. The humans retreated, their ships damaged, their hunters injured or captured. The merfolk who could still swim gathered in the throne room, battered and exhausted but alive. My father surveyed the damage, then turned to Magnus. You saved them, saved us? Magnus shrugged, wincing at his injuries. They're Elias's people, that makes them mine too. My mother swam forward, her eyes bright with tears. She looked at Magnus for a long moment, then did something that shocked everyone. She embraced him. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for protecting our son, for protecting all of us. Magnus stood frozen, clearly not used to maternal affection, but slowly his arms came up to return the hug. My father cleared his throat. I was wrong about you, about what you are. He extended his hand. You're welcome here, Magnus, both of you are. I felt Magnus's shock and cautious hope through the bond. Thank you, your majesty. Call me Thalassar, my father said gruffly. We're family now, apparently. We split our time between land and sea now. 3 months in the ocean, living in the palace or exploring the deep waters. 3 months on land, experiencing human culture and the strange life Magnus had built there. My family grew to love Magnus, though it took time. My mother fussed over him like she'd been doing it for years. My father consulted him on border defense strategies. Even the guards who'd once viewed him with suspicion now greeted him with respect. And Magnus, he blossomed under their acceptance. The cold, isolated predator I'd first met was gone, replaced by someone who smiled more, laughed more, loved more openly. Happy, he asked one evening, as we floated together in our favorite cove, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of gold and pink. Deliriously, I said, resting my head on his shoulder. You? I never thought I could be, he admitted. Before you, I didn't even know what happiness felt like. I just existed, survived, and now I live. He pulled me closer, his tail wrapping around mine. Because of you. I turned in his arms, cupping his face in my hands. I love you, Magnus, my terrifying shark-born predator. He smiled, that rare, beautiful smile that was only for me. And I love you, my foolish little prince. We kissed as the sun set, our bonds singing between us, strong and eternal and unbreakable. I'd left everything to find true love, and I'd found so much more, a partner, a home, a future filled with endless possibilities. Forever, I whispered against his lips. Forever, he promised, and for once, forever didn't seem nearly long enough.